Yeah, it was fantastic. And they're like, his name's Phil, right? And I was like, oh, I did know that. So part of my story is I also get to live with a brain tumor. I know that's like, hey, tell us more about that. We don't have time. Just know it's part of my story that God uses when I get to go speak at churches and conferences and speak to kids about all sorts of stuff. And it sometimes makes my words jumble. So I had Clay Claycomb stuck in my head like all morning, but I know it's Phil, and it's so gracious for being here today. So we are talking about engaging culture. I have to tell you, this morning, I got super excited because I saw one of my favorite coffee companies had a location over by my hotel. And so I was like, sweet, I'm going to leave early. I'm going to leave about 7:30, go get a nice strong cup of coffee at this coffee joint and, be ready for the morning. And then I realized I was in Dallas and I didn't go anywhere for about half an hour. I sat behind an accident and just watched water like a river go down the street during the rainstorm, and thought, man, I should have brought my fly fishing pole, my waders, and just like see if I got any hits on this thing. So then I made it across Lake Richardson over here to the church, and I'm glad that you guys are here safely as well. Hopefully you guys had a safe night and a good rest, and we're going to be praying for Corey and his church back in Kansas and all that stuff this morning. So what we have to talk about this morning really is really important when we talk about engaging culture, right? Engaging culture is a huge deal, and we see it. There we go. Oh, yeah, there we go. Engaging culture is a huge deal, and we see the effects of it all around us. And the church should be one of those places that engages culture most. One of my favorite messages in scripture is from Acts chapter 17, when Paul is in the city of Athens. And as he's walking around Athens, he sees all of these statues and idols and temples built to all the different gods. And there was the God of the sun and the God of the harvest and the God of the rain. And they would worship and offer sacrifices to these gods, so that the lives go, you guys know all this. I always feel awkward preaching to preachers. And then Paul gets invited to the Areopagus, right, Mars Hill, and they said, hey, we want to hear about these things that you're talking about, Jesus, about these things that you were teaching, because we've been teaching in the public square and in the temples. And they invite him and to share this idea of Jesus, about who this God is, to these philosophers, and they wanted to debate the religion with him. And the thing that Paul says, I think, is absolutely brilliant. He says, as I walked along your city, I see that you're very religious. He doesn't put them down for having too many gods or make fun of what they are. He just recognizes that they're very religious. And he said, as I walked around, I saw an idol to the unknown God. That is the one that I want to talk to you about today. And he goes on and he quotes their poets and he quotes their musicians, very famous stanzas that they would have been familiar with. And he uses those to point them to Jesus, which is exactly what you and I are called to do today. There are many gods in our culture, whether it be power, money, sex, fame, name it. And people are searching. They're searching and they're trying to fill this hole, this unknown God that they don't know. And this is where you get to do your job of engaging culture. It's that thing that you're looking for that I want to tell you about. And I'm going to use any means necessary to make sure that you know about him. And you know what? The response is going to be the same as it was for Paul. Some are going to believe and they're going to follow. Some are going to laugh and make fun of you, mock you. And some are simply just going to walk away. That doesn't make your job any less important. So I love talking about engaging culture. Like, I might preach a little bit this morning and we might not get through all the slides, but this is something that I have been passionate about for a long, long time. So again, here's some information on me. If you want to scan that QR code, it'll go right to my email. There's my email if you just want to take a picture of the slide. Again, you're going to get copies of the slides when we're all done here. And what would it be talking to a room of pastors and leaders if we didn't have an inspirational quote from another good teacher pastor? I'll wait. I know you guys are taking pictures and all that sort of stuff, but I really want to get onto this quote by this inspirational pastoral leader that's brought up at every conference, Craig Goschel. There it is. All right, we can move on. So, like we said yesterday, you have something to offer. You can become a tactic in everybody's strategy. What church has to offer and what people are looking for, and where the two intersect is where you are most effective. So how do we engage culture in this idea? We have three primary methodologies to connect with and grow their congregants. And that's what I want to talk about today. Engaging culture. What do you think is your biggest tool to engage culture? What do you think? Yell it out. Relationships? With who? Your neighbors? Children? Here's your biggest tool. You stand in front of them every Sunday. You pray for them at your staff meetings on Tuesdays or whenever you guys meet. Your biggest tool to engage culture is your people. Because, Pastor, I hate to tell you, you will never be able to keep up with culture. You just won't. And if that's the thing you need to hear this morning and take away and free yourself of that burden that you've been trying to keep up with culture, and you've been on the hamster wheel trying to make sure that you're following all the things and know what's going on, you won't. Because culture is moving too fast. It's land that's literally eroding beneath our feet. But your people do. Your people know culture because they're immersed in it in their workplaces, in their schools, in their sporting activities. They're immersed in culture. And so I believe what we need to do as pastors is to teach our people to engage the culture that's around them and give them the tools and give them the weapons and help develop them to be the ones who engage the culture. So what we want to look at is this idea of our church becoming a platform. Your church has three primary methodologies of which to grow your congregants. Number one, you can become a pipeline. A pipeline is a traditional business model, right? It just flows resources from one end to the other. Here, consume this, consume this. And we talked about yesterday, your people want to contribute value. They don't want to just be consumers. They want to be contributors. We were made to contribute value. It goes back to the creation story. Adam was put in the garden. He was given a task to work and take care of the garden even before sin even entered the picture. We were made to contribute value. So a pipeline isn't necessarily the best way. This is just a little bit about what pipes do. That's not who we want to be. Your church is a portal. Different portals that you can see examples of on the internet. Google is a portal. You put in your information, what you're looking for, it will bring back all the results. Yahoo, Kayak. Is Yahoo even around anymore except for fantasy football? I don't know. Your church could be a portal. Church could have the ministry fair and say, hey, here's what you can do. Here's how you can serve. Here are the different ways you can get involved in our church. When we use phrases like, we trust you'll find your place of service, or we really want all the men there, that's simply being a portal. But what if your church could be a platform? Now, a platform is the most disruptive business model in history. Here's what a platform looks like. All of these are platforms. Facebook, questionable. YouTube is becoming more of a platform. I got away from it a little bit. But a platform allows people to produce and upload content for others to consume and provide feedback on. That's what a platform does. A platform acts as an infrastructure that enables users to interface with each other and exchange some type of value with greater efficiency than users trying to interact on their own. A platform helps the content get from the creator to the user and provide feedback. There's a continuous feedback loop. And so we want to talk a little bit about what it looks like for a church to be a platform. Platforms have three main elements. There's the producer, the consumer, and the infrastructure. There's a continuous exchange of value and a continuous exchange of feedback. Netflix is an infrastructure. The consumer is the end user. The producer is the one who creates the content. They provide it to the consumer. The consumer can give feedback. How many times do you rate a show? How many times do you leave a review on Yelp or Google? Because we live in a world where trust has completely shifted. If you look back in the days, back in days of your older days, if I wanted to get some bread or I wanted to get some food or I wanted to get shoes for my horse, I would go directly to that source, right? I'd go to the baker. I'd go to the guy who sold the vegetables. I'd go to the person who shoed my horse. And then when industrialization came along, trust became institutionalized. I trust the brand. I trust the maker. I trust the people who do the thing that I need to be done. We live in a day and age where trust has now shifted from institutional to distributed. I would rather, and you would rather, take the word of 5,000 five-star Amazon reviews than trust it just because it's a known brand. I would rather get in a car with a stranger who has a 5-star rating than call up a yellow cab. Trust has shifted, and our culture is looking for trust in other places. So the feedback is a very important value of that platform. So elements in the church, we need to make it easy to provide value and to get feedback in your relationships. Easy to provide value and get feedback. How many have ever done a survey in their church? Right? Okay. You got some valuable feedback from those surveys, right? You get some information. Otherwise, all we live on is some guy syndrome. And that doesn't get us very far, because there's always going to be some guy in your church who, after you get done with a message, comes and goes, "Oh, Pastor, that was blessed this morning. Pastor, God just spoke through you this morning." You walk away, "Yes, he did." Meanwhile, there's 99 other people who it went right over their head. But you're living on the feedback of some guy. And the other 99 missed the entire thing. And chances are that guy just wants to take you golfing and say that he can golf with the pastor. So elements of the church. Look at it from the lens of a communications leader or director or pastor. The communications leader pastor can provide value in the form of ongoing curriculum, a light assessment, next steps to a visitor. Do you allow your visitors opportunities to provide feedback during your onboarding progress? Do you allow them to ask questions? Do you share the assessment results with them? That goes back to your communications leader so that you can continually refine things and make things better. Look at it from the lens of a small group leader. Small group leader should be providing a small group attendee with relevant curriculum, pre-assessments. We'll talk about those in a minute. Dialogue, relationship, the feedback comes from the small group attendee back to the leader. The leader can then, it's another loop that the leader can provide it back to the pastor or the church. The church can provide resources back to the small group leader, and it becomes this infinite loop. It's the build, measure, learn engine that we looked at in our slides yesterday. Build, measure, learn. Platforms accelerate the core process. Connect, know, match, catalyze. It's things that we talked about yesterday. The process for how God designed us to grow looks a little bit like this. We call this in the tech world gamification. If anybody plays video games, this will sound familiar to you. There's a trigger that causes you to take an action. You then connect with somebody who makes an opportunity to know you and match you with the right resources, which then catalyzes you. You receive value from that, and then there's a switch to where you either champion others or you invest for yourself. It's gamification of relationship and gamification of growth. Churches are becoming growth journey platforms that maximize participation and outcomes. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. Maximizes participation and outcomes. We're interested in the outcomes of things. We need to learn how to increase our connect, deepen our know, strengthen our matching abilities, and effectively catalyze people so that they can do the work of the ministry. A platform is architected around 4 utilities: participant energy, the core interaction, the ability to scale, and the tools that you give people in order to accomplish these tasks. So what is participant energy? It's basically this. What wants to happen? What wants to happen in your church and allowing it to happen? Hydroelectric, wind farms, solar farms. Those are all examples of taking the energy of something that wants to happen and harnessing it and distributing it so it becomes useful. So we look around in our churches and goes, what in my people, what in my church wants to happen? This is hard work because it takes a keen eye. And this is another reason why we can't be the ones to keep an eye on culture. Because we have to make sure that we're looking at our people and going, what wants to happen? And how can I, as a pastor, facilitate that to my people so they can go back out into culture and do the thing that wants to happen? Whoever thought that 600,000 people wanted to use their own vehicle to be a taxi driver for Uber? Uber has become one of the largest transportation companies in the world, and they don't own a thing. It's all distributed. They saw that, hey, people want rides. There are people who are willing to give rides to strangers. Let's make it happen. It was weird because when I grew up, what did my mom and dad tell me? Don't get in a car with a stranger. That's what I grew up my whole life. So when I took my first Uber, I was like, do I need a gun? Do I need like some mace? What do I do here? I've always been told don't get a car with a stranger, and yet here I are. Who'd have thought that 2 million people would want to rent their rooms in their homes to strangers through Airbnb? Airbnb has become one of the largest housing companies, temporary housing companies in the world. They don't own a thing. They saw that people had extra rooms, wanted to make some money. People needed a place to stay, that they didn't want to stay at a hotel. They saw that it wanted to happen, and they allowed it to. They simply became the infrastructure that made that thing happen. Does that make sense? 2.5 billion people would want to be content creators on Facebook. Platforms turn passive longing into active energy. So what in your church wants to happen? That's the question that only you guys can answer, because you're the ones who are in your churches. Where's the latent energy in your church? We call this the Uberization of ministry. Looking around and seeing what wants to happen and then architecting it so that it can happen amongst your people or amongst your community. If you were to ask your people in your church, how many people want to change the world? Raise your hand. Every hand would go up, right? Every hand would go up. Parachurch, nonprofits have been great at capturing this energy that we have not been able to. Think about all of the, for lack of a better term, social justice initiatives that have come down the pipe that your people get involved in, right? Posting it on Facebook, posting it on Instagram, maybe doing a 5K. They see these things, they want to get involved in them, and so they do, because they want to change the world. And we have a ton of nonprofits, parachurch organizations that are taking advantage of this. Yes?
Talk about what church wants to do, what your people want to make happen.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see, kind of deal with being the vision driver,
Mm-hmm.
that, right? So what if you're driving this way, but you see this like that, right?
Yeah.
Like in business, it's one thing because you see, oh, here's a problem I can solve, I can make some money, right? But if you're laser focused on here's our vision, where we're going, but you see, right? Like how do you handle that? How would you?
Yeah, great question. Yeah. Yes, perfectly. So just to recap, basically what you're asking is, if there's latent energy around something that's happening over here, but you're laser focused on your vision, if the two don't mesh, what do? Get somebody else to lead it. You stay laser focused on the vision and mission that God has called you to do. And if it doesn't mess with your vision, it's probably not for your church, right? If you are in connection with God and he's given you this vision and this mission to go forth and be about something, and you just can't see where this fits, find somebody who wants to lead that. And this is part of becoming a platform. Let's say, like, the perfect example, there was a church, there was a guy that kept coming. He kept coming. He owned a CrossFit ministry. And then he says, I want to do a CrossFit ministry here at the church. I want to do a CrossFit ministry here at the church. I want to do a CrossFit ministry. And they just couldn't find a way to make that fit. It didn't fit with who they were as a church. And so finally they said, hey, you know what? We as a church will resource you and help you with getting people involved in that CrossFit ministry, but it's yours to lead. This is one of the things we'll talk about in a few minutes, is churches need to learn to, and as pastors, one of the things that's hard for us to do is release governance and control of everything. It can come alongside and be an outpouring of your people and tapping into their passions, but it doesn't necessarily need to be another program or activity of the church. You're simply equipping them and allowing what wants to happen over here, happen over here. And that guy that did the CrossFit ministry, he said, hey, I'm from Crossroads Church, and here's what I'm going to do with my CrossFit ministry. And they did a Bible study and connected to church, but the church never had a hand in it at all. He simply said, I'm a representative of Crossroads Church. We're going to do Bible study. We're going to do a CrossFit workout. Great. A couple of people got connected to the church through it. Does that answer the question a little bit? We can talk specifics, maybe over lunch or stuff.
Spend a lot of time church planning,
Mhm.
talking about, vision drift,
Mhm.
making sure you don't have best that control.
Yeah.
Like that. And especially in like for at least me, and I think a lot of guys here, you're not dealing with thousands of people in a church. What
Right.
happens? So you take 20% of what you have,
Mhm.
like that can be a huge weight shift
Yeah.
onto who your identity is as far as energy, right?
Sure.
40 people, and you're really trying to go after what you think God's called you to do there. But I want to put all my energy into CrossFit ministry.
Yeah.
So now you've lost, taken a lot of energy away from that, which I'm all for people doing what their passions are for sure.
Yep.
But as far as like me spending energy or giving platform to something like that,
Yeah.
I don't feel it's on mission. Potentially, I could see that being in.
Yep. I totally get that.
To self-sustainability.
Yes. And that's what the beauty of the platform thing is. You don't have to put any energy behind it at all. You don't have to promote it. You don't have to say, hey, we've got this CrossFit ministry that meets on Saturday mornings. You just tell him, yes, we support you. If you need a Bible study plan to go through, I'm more than happy to give you that. But that's got to be something on your own thing. And if you want to say, hey, we're connected to our church, then you can say that like in your Bible study meetings, but doesn't mean you have to give them space on a Sunday morning. It doesn't mean you have to promote it from the front. It doesn't mean you have to send people there. It's simply allowing him.
Good distinction.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't mean that this becomes another ministry of your church, right?
When you say platform, I think about you on this platform.
Correct. Correct. So the one thing that you could do is say, hey, I want to provide you, if he wants to do a Sunday morning sermon follow-up, right? Say, hey, I want to do this 3 days a week at my CrossFit gym. Can I just get some notes or some questions from you? And now he gets in and he says, hey, here's the sermon that we're going through on a Sunday morning at my church, Crossroads Church. Here's the passage we looked at. Here's some questions we want to ask. Now let's go do our CrossFit thing. Awesome. The only thing it costed you was providing them a little bit of the content, right? And then getting feedback from them. Hey, how's it going? Have somebody, even if it's not you, if there's somebody else within the church that can meet with him for coffee and get the feedback from him, how's it going? Then they forward that up to you. Yeah, we're not talking about making it a ministry of the church or making it something upfront that you have to invest in or that you need to give all your time to. It's simply allowing to how do we provide those people with content so they can provide value for what they want to do. And we can talk specifics like I know with church planning, it does get a whole lot different. And I can totally appreciate not sapping that energy away from the vision drift, because that's the most important thing that God's called you to be about and going for it. So I think there is a both and there. It's just a difficult balance. Does that make sense? So Ephesians 2:10, right? For you are God handiwork created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for you to do. This is what we're talking about. People are fulfilled through contribution rather than just consumption. So even in the case of that, like, is there a way that people contribute to the vision and mission of the church? And that's one of the best things that you can do, is constantly remind them of what the vision and the mission of the church is all about, and asking them, even in this moment, like, how can you, with your passions, with the way you were created, is there something that you can bring to the table that helps us as a church fulfill our vision and our mission in this world? You might go, you know what? One of the vision and missions we have as a church of 50 people is we really want to take care of the single moms in our community. Is there a way that you can help us be a part of that? A mechanic might go, you know what? I'm going to take 3 hours on Saturdays and offer to give free oil changes and brake checks and safety seat checks to moms in our community. Pastor, can I do that? Absolutely. How can we provide you with value and content so that you can make that happen and continue to fulfill the vision of what God's called us to do? So there are ways that we can look at, and hopefully we can find those things. We live in a world with billions of people who desire personal growth to improve their relational, emotional, vocational, spiritual, financial, or physical, mental dimension. Each one of those is on a growth journey. As pastors, as leaders, our job is to know these opportunities and provide a good match to a growth experience. This is hard, and this is why we rely on our people. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11 through 13. And he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, the teachers to equip who? The saints for the work of ministry. We're building up the body of Christ until we all attain the unity in faith and knowledge of the Son of God, to mature to manhood, to the measure and the stature of the fullness of Christ. Paul is writing to the church in Ephesus, the church, not the pastor. So when he writes this, he is saying, hey, look, God has given the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, the teachers to do this thing, to equip the people to do the work of ministry. I did ministry for 23 years. There were moments that I felt burnt out and worn out and just like I couldn't do it anymore. And in those times, most of those times, when I looked back, I realized that I was trying to do the work of the ministry and not preparing my people to do the work of the ministry. It's a mental mind shift. It's tough. It's hard work, but you knew that getting into it. Thank God for organizations like Nexus and the people in this room who can lift you up and encourage you and help you down that road and walk through it with you. That's what this is for. So what wants to happen in your church? Where's the latent energy in your church? Number two, it's built around one core interaction. Every platform is built around one core interaction that creates some type of value for both parties, right? Some type of value for both parties. YouTube's a platform for hosting, production, and viewing, consumption of videos. Kickstarter is a platform for hosting, production, and funding consumption of projects. Twitter is a platform for the creation, production, and viewing, consumption of tweets. We already talked about it here. Airbnb connects hosts and travelers. That's the core interaction. They need a place to stay. When it comes to personal growth, sometimes something is missing. A lot of churches go, well, big data is going to solve my problem. You know, if I could just see the data, or if I could see demographics, or I have great digital content, or I have an app that I can get people to on my mobile phone. By the way, church planners, if you don't have an app yet, don't get one. They're terrible. Here's the research. People don't want to download another app. How many apps do you have on your phone that you don't use? And app companies are out there looking to bleed churches dry because they go, oh, every church wants an app. It's hip. It's cool. And they will charge you a ton of money to make it, and then they will never use it. Everything you can do on an app, you can do through other apps. Utilize those apps. Save your money from ministry. Don't get sucked into the app thing. If you have an app, sorry. Big data does not equal engagement. Great digital content does not equal good habits. Mobile does not equal connectedness. What makes the difference in all of those things? It's relationship. Big data plus a caring pastor does equal engagement. Great digital content plus a coach, a small group leader, a life coach, a small group coach equals good habits. Mobile plus group members equal connectedness. Have you ever thought about using your texting platform? If you don't have one, I can give you a free one. That's great for using it for more than just broadcasting, more than just, hey, we've got this event coming up. You guys should check it out. You can use text messaging to develop and deepen the relationship in between the face-to-face. What if you did, hey, we'd had this big, huge sermon series. Scan this QR code if you would like a daily devotion based on this series the rest of the week. And in each of those, we're going to ask you for some feedback. Churches that are doing this are seeing incredible engagement through their texting. And because we offer a free texting platform with unlimited texts, yes. When they told us they were going to this model, Matt, my partner, and I, who run the Lighthouse Group, go, do you realize that we have some churches that will send out a text blast to 10,000 people and they will get 6,000 responses, and they will respond to those 6,000. They'll get 4,000 more responses, all within a span of like 2 minutes, and you're going to pay for all that? And our CEO went, yep. Okay. North Coast Church in Vista, California, Larry Osborne, Chris Brown, we talked about them. They went completely onto our platform, 20,000 people that they're engaging with. They do something called the Daily Dose every day. They've been doing it for 5 years, 5 days a week. It's just a quick video message. It's just a link that leads to a video message of Chris or Larry or one of their other leaders giving a quick devotional for that morning, and then a link to resources if they wanted to do more about it on their website. They send that out to 20,000 people 5 days a week. They're now doing it for free. You can use texting for more than just broadcast. Because here's the truth. Relationship is what catalyzes growth. Relationship catalyzes growth. If you think your sermon's going to cause people to grow, or your content's going to cause people to grow, or your small group's going to cause people to grow just because they're sitting in it, it's not going to happen unless you inject relationship into the equation. The core interaction is always connected to the mission of the organization. Always connected to the mission of the organization. For your church, what might be one core interaction that you're trying to multiply and scale in your church? Based on your mission, what are you trying to get people in your church to repeatedly do? If we do this, if we multiply this, action, attitude, value, habit, behavior, we fulfill our mission as a church. What is that one thing that if you could scale it, that's your core interaction? Could it be that creating a meaningful connection between people and God? Could it be creating a meaningful connection between people and people? One believer sharing the gospel with a non-believer, people discovering what's broken and redeeming it, unlocking Ephesians, that should be 2:10, and every person turning consumers into producers. Whatever it is, you have to figure that out for your church. And now you can get it to scale. Scale is the ability to quickly turn consumers into producers, helping people move from contribution or from consumption to contribution. Scale is achieved by making the core interaction, whatever that thing is that you want to have happen in your church, simple, repeatable, common. Scale is achieved by rapidly converting consumers into producers with the least amount of friction. People who want to ride with Uber can easily start driving for Uber. All you have to do is download an app, fill out a form, get your car checked out. Boom, you're making money. Those who have a room to rent through Airbnb can easily rent out a room through Airbnb. Boom, they're making money. So the question for you as a church is, can those who receive the gospel easily share the gospel? Have you made the gospel easy, and have you created tools for your people to share it? Can those who are taught easily teach others? I'm not talking about getting up in front of people, but if there's a deep spiritual precept that they've come to learn, can they teach that to other people through a coffee, over lunch? Can those who participate in service easily include others in the service? Can those who receive easily pay it forward? Some different things for you to consider. What could you build into everything you do to enable or equip the opportunity to turn the people who are consuming it, the people who sit in your chair, in your churches, into producers as quickly as possible? Does the church's plan for growth require additional staffing? Or can you grow because consumers, your people, can easily become producers and help others? Instagram, when it started, had 11 employees. They didn't need more staff. They just knew how to take consumers and turn them into contributors. And they flipped the switch. So let's talk about tools. Ideally, platforms don't do any work, but they create tools for people to do the work themselves. Better tools, not necessarily more staff, right? Instagram had 14 employees when it was bought by Facebook for $1 billion. WhatsApp had 40 employees when it was acquired by Facebook. Everything is acquired by Facebook for $19 billion, 40 employees. Remember the ice bucket challenge? What did people need to participate? A bucket of ice and social media. Yeah, super easy. And yet we saw 17 million people raise $115 million for ALS because people had an ice bucket and a phone. How do we do that in the church? Some tools that were created during COVID. This was really cool. One of the things one of our churches did is they just sent chalk out to their kids. They went to the dollar store, bought a bunch of chalk, sent it out to each one of their families, and said, draw messages of hope or love or whatever you want on your driveway. One church took this to the next step, and they provided a tool, and they left a sign out that said, it's this one up here, add your chalk art. So as people walking around the neighborhoods, which happened during COVID, they could stop and add to the artwork that was going on the sidewalk. This is one down here in the left-hand corner. This is the one my boys did. We did this in our neighborhood. My boys did the cross and a couple pieces of stained glass around it. Our neighbors all added the rest of the stained glass. These neighborhood cards. This one says up here, during this time of isolation, I can help. We posted these on the mailboxes in our neighborhood. Is there anything you need? We can help. These were simply tools. Hey there, neighbor. My name is, and I live in your neighborhood. These are things that you should be had available on your church website. You can still have these available on your church website. What about a mailbox campaign? As a church planner, hey, we're going to create these cool cards that our people can download off of our website and put on their community mailboxes. Need anything? Here to help. Need anything? Here to help. That's a tool. Bless. This is from Dave Ferguson at Community Christian outside of Chicago. Bless. Begin with prayer, listen to others, eat with others, serve others, tell stories. These are cards that they give to their church. Block Party Kickstarter. Dream. How can you bring people together? Invite. Who can help? Decide. Date, time, location, what the fun's going to be, the fun plan, food, activities, music, and then party. They handed this out to their entire church. Church, go throw block parties. Look for the way this happens. One of the things that we did that we've always done is on Halloween, I like to set up my fire pit on my driveway, and I have s'mores for the kids to make. And I have like Capri Suns and juice boxes. And then I have the special cooler for the adults behind me. And we invite our neighbors to just hang out for a few minutes. And while the kids are making s'mores, guess what I get to do? Talk to the parents, learn their names. We took this to one of the churches I worked at, and all we did is provide people with signs that they could stick in their yard that said holiday events from now through New Year's. And I had a little QR code. And as people walked up to the driveway, scanned the QR code, it went to a backside landing page on our church's website that listed every single activity going on in our area from Halloween through New Year's. Guess what was listed on there? Our Christmas services. Our Christmas party that we were throwing. It was what we call high value, low brand, or low brand, high value. We didn't say, this church wants you to know what we're doing. Here it is. It's brought to you by this church. And it was simply on the back end of our webpage, and at the very bottom, it said, brought to you by this church. That's it. High value, low brand. There's a church, Celebration Church out of Jacksonville, Florida. They have something called ESPN. ESPN is, I forget what the E is. I think it's just engage. So they made this a part of their care ministry, and every person in their church is trained to do this. When somebody comes to you and they have a problem or something that's going on in their life, they just remember ESPN. Engage. I'm going to talk with this person. I'm going to listen. S, speak any relevant scriptures over them. P, pray over them. And N, know what the next steps are. Is it somebody who's struggling with addiction? Forward them on to Celebrate. Tell them about Celebrate Recovery. It's somebody that's having parenting issues. Get them into a parenting class. Everybody simply knows this. This is a tool that they walk around knowing. So now what? That's the question. What if you thought of your role as chief platform architect? You have two jobs: motivate people and provide tools. Again, Ephesians chapter 4. So the homework for you guys, what wants to happen in your church? What's the one core interaction your church is trying to scale? What tools would help people more easily complete your core interaction? That's not something I can tell you because that's something that you have to take back to your church. Just some other ways to engage with culture. Number one, release governance and control. Pastor, you don't have to control everything. You don't have to govern everything. You want to know what my most successful social media campaign when I was a pastor of? What I did? I let my students, whoever wanted to, run our TikTok and Instagram for a week. Well, aren't you afraid they're going to post some racy stuff? Guess who's got the kill button? Not well, I equipped a volunteer to oversee it, but they did. We had one incident where a kid thought he was being funny and it was just like a little bit questionable and we had to pull it down. And guess what that injected? A mentoring opportunity. This is why we had to pull it down, bud. Oh yeah, I totally get that. Release governance and control. Ministry innovation team. Have you ever thought about a ministry innovation team at your church? People want to contribute value. We had a church that was we were working with just outside Indianapolis. And we said, hey, what if you had a ministry innovation team? Throw it to your congregation. See if anybody wants to join and come up with ideas on how to be innovative and creative in ministry. They did this. One person raised their hand, turned out to be the executive vice president of Salesforce. There's a guy you want on your ministry innovation team, right? Not a huge church either. Church of about 500. Senior vice president of sales. They never knew him. But now they connected him to contribute value in the way that he knew and the way that he was passionate about. You have people probably sitting in your pews that are very creative people. And you don't have to come up with all the creative stuff. High value, low brand. We talked about that a little bit. A drip campaign, shareable assets, right? So as some of the stuff that Chris is giving you is gold. But one of the things that churches are really, really bad at, we like to ask for marriage on the first date. We're really, really excited when somebody likes our, oh my gosh, you guys got to serve. I'm going to get you into the children's ministry. We're going to connect you to the women's ministry. Well, I'm just checking you out, dude. Calm down. So we need to establish trust sometimes before we go in for the ask. What happens if you spent your Facebook ad spend on a high value, low brand drip campaign? You've got a family thing coming up. Start 3 months out. Just every few weeks, putting a little bit of ad spend behind something that's high value, low brand. Hey, 10 free things for your family to do in our area this summer. Clicks out to a PDF or the back end of your website. They go, oh, that's cool. Who was that? Oh, that some church provided. That's cool. Do it again. Hey, 5 great things for your family to talk about at family dinners. 5 great questions. Boom. Oh, that's kind of neat. Do another one a few weeks later. 3 great date night ideas for you and your spouse. Well, that's awesome. All this leads up to, boom. Your people are sharing these things. People are liking them. The more that happens, you create this family series. We want to invite you to the greatest family ever. Our family series, we're kicking it off this Sunday. All of a sudden, you've built trust with people. That church gave me that, and we experienced some cool stuff on our date night, and we had some really powerful conversations with our kids. Maybe I'll check that out. You establish trust before you go in for the ask. Doesn't always have to be that way, but it's a great way to do it. Serving in your community, a shareable ask, right? One of the things that was super cool, we had a church that we were working with in San Diego, my buddy's church. And they were sponsoring their local 4th of July thing. Most churches, when they go in and do this stuff, sorry, Jeff, set up a booth, put cornhole out front, have popcorn, cotton candy machines, and expect people, hey, there's a new church. Let's go check it out. Let's check it out. You know what this church did? They sponsored all the trash. And on every trash can, it says, we love our city, Pacific Life Church. And they had their staff wearing things that said, we love our city, trash collector. And then it just said on the bottom, Pacific Life Church. And they walked around picking up trash. Can I get that for you? Can I take that for you? Let me throw that away for you. And it was one of their most talked about campaigns because people were asking the city council, who did you hire to do your trash? The city council was saying, oh, we didn't hire anybody. It was this church. Very small church, about 40 people. They had 10 new people the following Sunday after the party. 10 out of 40. That's a good return. They've had, I think, 4 that have stuck around. Still, not bad return. You guys know what that world is like. Social media. One mistake that churches make is you blast the same content across every social media channel. Somebody goes to Facebook, they see the clip of the pastor. Somebody goes to Instagram, same clip of the pastor. Somebody goes on, I don't know if TikTok, same clip of the pastor. Well, I've already seen too much of my pastor. There's a dude that you should follow, Gary Vaynerchuk. If you can handle the F word, he uses it a lot. Typical New Jersey guy. Sorry if you're from New Jersey. Brilliant content creator. He's got something that he calls the 30 funnel. He basically takes one podcast, one talk, one whatever you want to do, and he can create 30 different clips on social media. And he uses different social media for different things. Guess what? Instagram isn't all that shareable. So you're asking your people to share things on Instagram that they have to go through a lot of trouble. We need to talk about low bar of entry. Instagram should probably just be for the people in your church. Facebook is where it's easily shareable. Make stuff that's shareable, different content, stuff that's not going to hit just people in your church, but people outside. This is a whole thing that Chris could probably I could get into. Like it's a whole other subject. Like this goes deep. A lot of churches think, well, we need to do excellent production value. We want things, and you stall and you pause because you want it to be excellent. You know what the most highest performing video on Instagram and Facebook is? It's when the pastor or whoever just gets up with a cell phone and does this. Churches that just see that get more interaction than anything else, than any of their slickly produced. You know why? Because you're not the ones that determine the value of the content. The consumer is. If they're getting what they're looking for from a crappy cell phone video versus a highly slick produced piece, they're the ones who determine the value. Churches are like, it needs to be produced, it needs to look good, it needs to do this. No, it doesn't. It just needs to provide value. Some resources to learn more. The book that I talked about that my buddies wrote, 14 Fridays, all sorts of different platform theory, all sorts of stuff. Now I want to get into just he gets us for a few minutes, right? He gets us is the biggest national effort to raise the respect and relevance of Jesus in our culture. Jesus was fill in the blank. Everybody has an opinion about Jesus. A new campaign that's launched to influence millions to think differently. You may have seen the commercials in the Super Bowls. This is going to be a sustained national conversations. It's going to go on for at least the next 5 years. Hundreds of $millions are being poured into this thing. Christians and faith organizations have an opportunity to learn about it, spread the word, and get involved. The objectives of the campaign: 1, to influence attitudes and perceptions about Jesus. No matter what side of the coin you sit on about the He Gets Us campaign, you cannot deny that it started conversation in our country. It's been one of the most talked about things, and people are actually talking about Jesus. That has caused Christians to reflect Jesus more authentically in how they love others. I was at a bar for Super Bowl. My buddy owns a bar in the Denver area. He invited me over. There were a few hundred people there. Nobody was talking, or nobody was really watching the game. You know, people are eating, they're talking, they're having fun, they're drinking, they're kind of looking at the game, checking it out. When those commercials came on, the bar went silent. Several hundred people going, what is that all about? And here I was wearing this hat, and I had about 30 conversations with people. What is that? Couldn't you guys have spent the money on better things? All sorts of different conversations. So, number 3, help the Christian ecosystem better understand and connect with the culture that it is trying to reach for Christ. So, a couple of things that we do. Oh, did this? I think I broke the clicker. It's a clapper clicker. Oh, there we go. Sweet. So, He Gets Us leverages Glue, which is the company that I work for, as a one-stop shop to help churches get connected to the campaign and access resources that drive more engagement with their communities. So basically on Glue, we have the texting platform. When you sign up for an account with Glue, first off, it's free for at least a year. That is our commitment. When you sign up, you get it for at least a year. We have a bunch of people who are donating. Some donate to He Gets Us. Some just want to be contributors to Glue. And they say, hey, we'll pay for the texting platform. We will pay for all the texts. We'll work out a way that we're going to be able to afford this. And so basically what you get is this is what the texting platform looks like on a desktop. You can also do it on your mobile. We have a mobile app for that sort of stuff. You can see this is the Explorers. It's up here in the Engage tab. These are all our Explorers. So this is just dummy data that we have in our church account. Your phone number that you get is right here. And then you can look at all your different Explorer settings. What you get as a church is you get the name of the person, their phone number, their email address, their zip code, and whatever ad topic they came in through. And then they send you a message that says, hey, I'm really struggling with, like my mental health today. I could really use some help. You have a chance to respond here. We've got conversation prompts that you can around just about every topic: anxiety, depression, finances, relationships, whatever. You can add multimedia stuff, gifts, whatever you want to do to communicate with these people right in the platform. So you don't even ever have to do it from your phone number. The platform's available on the web. It's available in the app, all that sort of stuff. You have a sheet here that if you just scan that QR code, they're available at the back table. That will enter you into creating an account that won't cost you a penny, like I said, for at least a year. And if the reason we need churches is because there are Explorers all across this country, and we have in some places like 2 or 3 churches that are getting all the Explorers. The more churches we have, the more widely spread this thing is. We had one, and we have a ton of resources. So everything within our resource, I wish I could show my computer live, because we have something called Discover, where all of our partners, everything from the Southern Baptist Association to Alpha to American Association of Christian Counselors to He Gets Us, to have all produced content. The Billy Graham Center at Wheaton College has written sermons that you can download and plug in easily if you wanted to do this. We had a church down in Colorado Springs who said, hey, there's not many churches in Colorado Springs right now that are taking advantage of He Gets Us. Can you get us 100 t-shirts for our volunteers? Yes, I can. So now they're volunteers when they go out in the community wear the He Gets Us shirts, because they want them to associate Discovery Church with He Gets Us. Smart move. Here's some of our partners. Alpha, YouVersion. There are YouVersion plans that you can direct your people to that are written specifically for this sort of stuff. These are tools that you can get into the hands of your people. Churches that are involved. You can see some of the churches that are already doing things around this and getting involved with providing their people tools to have about these conversations. He Gets Us wants 2 bridges. Number 1, the first bridge, ads, media, public website, thinking of Jesus as fully human. And then we push them to the partners, our churches and Jesus followers who do the work of the evangelism and the discipleship. So much of the pushback that we got on the He Gets Us campaign is like, well, you didn't share the full gospel. That wasn't the point. That's your job. We're trying to equip conversation. We're trying to get people interested in Jesus. And when they go to the website and they go, I need prayer, or I need to talk to somebody, guess who gets that relationship? You get to share them the full gospel. This is a bunch of people who have a ton of money and found some ad agencies to work with. They're not equipped as you to share the gospel with these people. They want to give you the opportunity to do so. He Gets Us was voted number 8, the Love Like Children one, and the Jesus Love the People We Hate, number 15. By the way, that one rocked me when I saw that one, because it's easy to say Jesus loved people who hated him, but to say Jesus loved the people I hate, that was like a gut punch for me. Had the most mentions of any Super Bowl ad according to Adweek. It was also one of the big winners by Adweek. They said the entertainment, Warner Brothers, Walt Disney, Live Nation, retailers, but Jesus was a big one. It was the #1 ad by brand across the United States. All the states with black dots is where it was the most mentioned ad by state, according to things like Twitter, social media. Jesus has been entered into the conversation. Here's my question. Whether you agree with it or not, what tools are you giving your people to have conversations about Jesus? Because they're having them, because this is being mentioned. We had one pastor outside of Kansas City, being covered by every major news outlet. One pastor by Kansas City, I loved it. My buddy works at the church. He said, my pastor talked about He Gets Us. They got involved in the He Gets Us campaign. Some people gave him pushback. This feels like woke Jesus. This feels like it has an agenda. Couldn't they have done more better things with their money? And I can address all those if you have concerns about those, like all day long. Here's what he said. Would I have worded some things differently? Yes. Are we financially supporting them? No. Well, why would they? They already got a ton of money. But if one person is going to see one of those ads and go, I need prayer, and that person has the opportunity to end up in my lap, I want to be the one to build the relationship. Churches go into this thinking that they're going to have a ton of people show up on their campus on Sunday. That's not the way it works, because people respond in a moment of felt need. You as the church get to build that bridge and get to build that trust. We had a church that was texting with a lady ongoing for 3 months, and she only ever responded like twice, yes and no, but she never said stop. So they put it into their church management database and followed up with her like a couple weeks later, a couple weeks later, a couple weeks later. She texted in one morning at 2 a.m. Luckily, they had a volunteer team. One of the guys worked the night shift and said, hey, I'll have it on my phone, and if anybody comes in, direct them to me if they're coming overnight. He gets this text from this lady through the church's phone number at 2 a.m. She's going on, she just kind of came down off of a bender, was like suicidal, thinking about that she wanted to take her life. And he said, hey, I just want you to know I'm praying for you right now. She got that text back at 2:30 in the morning because this guy was working the overnights. And then he said, hey, I just want you to know we have something in my church called Celebrate Recovery. I go. It's where I find hope, healing, help. He invited her. She showed up on Saturday. She hasn't missed a Sunday since. Long-term relationship building. Just a cool cartoon. Sure, it's controversial, but maybe there are people who will bring it back to church. Can I count this as going to church right now? Like, that's the way our culture thinks right now, right? But there is an opportunity to engage with those folks. This is the traffic we saw in 1 minute after the Super Bowl ads. Just some cool stories that we've had. The engagement, 974 total live chats in a week, 450 prayer requests. We connected over 3,000 people to churches in that week after the Super Bowl. Super Bowl fans texted in 36,000. Total SMS messages sent and received Super Bowl weekend, over 150,000 text messages. We went from 50,000 people exploring the Super Bowl on YouVersion, doing the reading plans, to 169 accounts after the Super Bowl. So what's ahead? There's plenty of stuff going on in the He Gets Us calendar. We're here right after the big game, the Third Way. There are Third Way resources if your church wanted to take advantage of those. Sacrifice around Easter, and then what do we need next moving forward? So you'll see ones about the sacrifice of Jesus. Running now, this is in Las Vegas and in Times Square, or those both? No, those are both Vegas. So different ads from the Super Bowl commercials. So just a little bit of info about that. The question, couldn't they have done something better with their money? This is a big one that comes up. We already addressed the full gospel one. I know who some of these donors are. The only one that's really come public is Steve Green from Hobby Lobby. He gave an interview and said, yeah, I'm if I can promote the name of Jesus in our country, I will. I know who a lot of them are. And I guarantee you they're doing a lot more than you or I. I had this conversation with my buddy who was doing the podcast. Well, they could have done so much more. I said, dude, trust me, they're doing way more than you and I are doing with their money to address homelessness and poverty and hunger and all that sort of stuff. And he goes, well, you don't know what I do. And I said, dude, exactly my point. You don't know what they do. They are doing things. And they got together and said, hey, there's the Servant Foundation out of Kansas City said, hey, do you guys want to help us inject Jesus into the national conversation? Yeah, I'll pony up for that. $1 million, 5 million, 10 million is nothing to some of these people. Steve Green funded the Bible Museum in Washington, D.C. out of his own pocket. If you haven't been, it's phenomenal. It'll blow your mind. It's a good trip. Anyways, all that to say, we can help you with resources. Max Lucado heard what we were doing. He said, hey, how can I help? We said, hey, we got these Super Bowl commercials coming up. Can you write us a book? 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, this hit. I got a ton of them. Thomas Nelson's going to try and sell them on Amazon and bookstores for $15. You can get them for free. If I have leftovers, take some and give them away. I wear this hat when I go through the airport. I wear this hat when I go to coffee shops. I wish I had time to tell you the stories that I have been able to engage simply because they go, hey, are you part of that? Yeah. Because I've been able to represent He Gets Us all over the place. I carry these in my backpack and I just give them to people. And I write my number in them. If any questions, give me a call. I didn't do that in years. I don't need you calling me. But it's an awesome conversation starter. On the He Gets Us website, people can order shirts, hats, stickers, water bottles for free, including shipping, because they just want Jesus to be brought up in conversation. And the whole hope is that we have thousands and thousands of churches across this country who are using this opportunity to give their people tools to have a conversation about Jesus that would lead them into relationship and hopefully fill the seats of your churches where you can do the hard work of evangelism and discipleship. That's why I love this, because it's simply that first step, and they leave the rest up to you to do what you've been called to do. So if you have questions about it, grab a book, grab a few, grab a water bottle, take one home for your spouse, whatever. They're the cool, like aluminum, So I don't want to ship anything back. It'd be a pleasure to give them all away. If you have questions, I'll be hanging out afterwards. And I got one more thing. We'll talk about assessments and stuff later, but that's it for me. Andrew?
Awesome. I was wondering if we could get that picture like of the whole country and just show how unholy South Dakota is. They didn't have a black, or Wyoming for that matter. They didn't have black dots. So Budweiser, it was Budweiser.
It probably. Let's see. There it is.
There it is. Yes, there it is. So,
Budweiser, South Dakota. I can't see
Wyoming. What is Wyoming?
I can't see
something about Mexico. Yeah. Avocados in Mexico.
Mexico. That's fantastic.
Yeah, there's more lost people there.
Well, at least you're not. What is that, like Vermont Bush beer? Gosh, at least have some tape.
No, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Carrie. Appreciate that. If we can, we'll throw up Carrie's slide. I've emailed you guys all of the slides for the session. So there's a shared folder on OneDrive, and I put all of the slides in there on a PDF. His handout? No, I will put it on that folder. So you'll have access to that. So I can just stop sending you emails. You just keep going back to that folder. We'll put Carrie's information up after we get through his 1,000 slides that he's using. And feel free to copy that down. One thing to do real quick before break. Just another thank you to one of our sponsors. Clergy Advantage is I believe covering lunch today. And here's a couple real short videos from Clergy.
Existed for over 40 years to serve ministers. You can see from our list of services that we specialize in the complexities of ministers' tax and retirement planning and just about everything in between. However, what we actually do goes far beyond the services we provide. It all hinges on the philosophy, commitment, and skill of the professionals and supporting individuals who provide these services.
Preparing taxes for ministers is very exciting, but it's only the first step. The next level is the tax projection, what strategies we can implement. And then the third level is full-blown tax planning. We can make a profound difference in every minister's life as we do that.
A few years ago, I was introduced to the incredible ministry of Clergy Advantage. I love their tagline, "We're your advantage to succeed." And that's true, because I'm here to pastor and lead people and to serve the kingdom of God. But I don't know the first thing about doing my taxes. I don't know much about planning for retirement, but I don't have to. I would never make a tax decision. I would never make a retirement decision without first consulting with Clergy Advantage. I love their ministry and I love what they do for me. And so I'm excited about my future because of Clergy Advantage. And I hope that you can tap into their incredible resources as well. I highly recommend them.
So Rep from Clergy couldn't actually make it. They have like a team conference or something like that going on right now, but love Clergy Advantage, and they're actually based in Loveland. I didn't even realize that. And so we moved there to plant a church. And so that was pretty awesome. But national organization works with like 403B retirement stuff. They'll run your taxes for you. They do all sorts of investments and different things of that nature. And so I've used them for years, love all they do. Don't ask me any questions about it. Just go to their website. So just kidding. We're going to take a break, snacks and coffee and all that good stuff. We'll be back here at 10:30 sharp. Question real quick?
Statewide votes in 4 or 5 different districts and cities across Kansas got hit this morning. So thank you for your prayers.
Hoax? Is that what you said? So it wasn't? Wow, praise God. Cool, awesome.